He's Andrew Marchand, the Athletic senior sports media columnist, and you can follow him at Marchand Sports Media, andrewmarchand.com. Let me start there with Netflix. How would you rate that performance?
I'd give it a D, Dan. Number one thing you have to do is deliver the product, and the buffering was terrible. People get knocked off left and right, and it's a worrying sign for them. They had trouble a couple of years ago with one of their shows when they did a live show, Love is Blind, and then not having it on. And then the broadcast, the stream wasn't great. I get it. This is a kind of a sideshow event, but mic didn't work. You got Jerry Jones kissing the NFL, or Netflix is behind and his mic doesn't work. And just the overall, it just didn't. They kept telling us how big a deal it was, and a lot of us watch, but really, it's a sideshow kind of thing. So a D for me.
Okay, how does this happen? Your Netflix. This is your big rollout. This is where you say, and we're going to be bringing you some NFL games. We're going to bring you WWE. I mean, you can't slip on the banana peel like this.
Yeah, no, it can't happen. And that's, I think, when you think about the NFL, right? We all kind of look at these things and we say Netflix, Amazon, Apple, Google, YouTube, that they'll be able to do this. These are huge company, billion-dollar companies, trillion-dollar companies. They're kind of 0 for 2. I mean, you could give them the Brady roast, which was live, less people watching, a little bit different type of event. So maybe 1 for 3. But so you simply say Netflix. Okay, how can this? I will say this, and I used to see this when cable companies would start, like in New York, an SNY, which is the Mets network, and they turn the switch on, it doesn't work, and you're like, how is it possible that this isn't working? And it's not something that it's not as easily replicable as people might think. So, but yeah, the NFL is going to wake up Christmas Day and they're going to be a little bit nervous. Is this Kansas City Steeler game going to go on? Is the Ravens Texans game going to be able to be seen by everybody? They'll take the money, of course, but Netflix has some answers that they have to come up with.
Inside the NBA, going to the mothership and ABC, how did this happen?
So 3 weeks ago, Jimmy Pitaro, the chairman of ESPN, called Luis Silberwasser, who is the counterpart at AT&T Sports, and he said to him, essentially, you have a problem that I think I can solve, and you can solve one of my problems. ESPN's problem has been that they have not had, a good enough pre and post game show around the NBA. They've tried to for a long time with a million different combinations to be as good as Inside the NBA. They never could quite do it. They had some good shows over the years, but never good enough. And so, with the new packages coming along, TNT Sports has finalized an agreement with the NBA, after they were suing them. And so what happens inside the NBA? It could be on TNT Sports. But the little thing that people don't realize about these shows is that they're really only as successful as the games they're around, right? Like ESPN's ratings a lot of times with their pregame show was higher than TNT's ratings, which I think would surprise people. But the quality of, especially with Barkley, who was on your air all the time, he's the best ever, in my opinion. Ernie Johnson's a tremendous host. Shaq has gotten much better, and Kenny Smith's a good, you can shoot the three when it gets kicked out to him in terms of their grouping. And so it made sense for ESPN to bring them in. Countdown goes to their number 2 show. TNT gets about 25 college basketball and football games from the Big 12, kind of lower tier games. They need inventory. So a win, but especially for ESPN.
But I'm worried about the ESPNification of this. Does ESPN try to come in and say, hey, you know what we're thinking? And that usually doesn't go well.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen, Dan. I think that, and I wrote a column on The Athletic that's up there right now. This is the Jimmy Pitaro era. And if you look at his playbook, Peyton Manning, he wants Peyton Manning. Hey, Peyton, you can work from home or your friend's garage on Mondays and make Monday Night Football. He wants Joe and Troy for Monday Night Football. Obviously, money was the big thing there, but they were going to get broken up. Troy was kind of on the out with Fox. They got to stay together. Pitaro did that. McAfee's show, You can do it from Indianapolis. We'll license the show. There's a similar arrangement. I think that's the Pitaro playbook. I mean, if I'm a producer there, I'm kind of saying if I'm in Bristol, that and you know it well, you're kind of like, well, what are we doing? Like, we can't get this right. The big boss keeps outsourcing our programming. That's not a good sign, especially for the big shows. But it's not the same Bristol. I've said this before. I refrain from it from this column, but Jimmy Pitaro is a huge Yankee fan. He's kind of the George Steinbrenner of sports media right now. He's got the most money to play with, or at least the most money that his company is willing to play with. Obviously, these tech companies have more money, and he's going out and getting what he wants, especially in terms of the on-air people.
Any guarantees given? Barkley is 61. He's got a 10-year deal that he's only, a couple of years into. I mean, that's a big chip of how long is Charles going to be there? How important is he to this deal?
Yeah, I've been told there are stipulations. I don't know exactly what they are. I mean, the big one is Shaq is unsigned. He's told people that he wants to stay. He's on board, but he has even more leverage. If an Amazon or NBC says, you know what, let's kind of put a hole in this plan for ESPN, they could come and give Shaq, big money or bigger money than TNT would. But I think he does want to stay. And do these other networks as NBC or Amazon want to build it around Shaq. I think they're all very comfortable there. But look, Barkley's the show. We can talk about formats. We can talk about everything. You put Charles Barkley on any of these shows. If he had moved over just to Countdown, Malik Andrews is hosting, you have Stephen A., whatever, it would be a really good show because Charles is that good. He's got the credentials of one of the great players of all time, willing to say anything at any time. And, anybody who I only know him a little bit, but well enough, but people who really know him well, great guy, just a natural person. And so I think you add all those things. And then Ernie does a great job. What Ernie does so well, Dan, and I know you appreciate it because you're very good at this as well, but those guys say some crazy stuff, right? They go after San Antonio women. They go after this. They go after Ernie recognizes it right away. Doesn't make it obvious that he's like, I'm going to take the air out of this issue a little bit, and makes it so kind of voice of reason and kind of lowers the temperature. So to answer your question, I think ESPN, we've seen it with McAfee. They're kind of hands off. It's, they maybe could be a little more hands on because I don't know if McAfee works on linear TV, it works on YouTube. But with this show, I really think it will be the same show. I think they will rip on ESPN all the time, but good naturedly. And I think it's fun. Like it's not as much an NBA show as it is just a fun. We've been hanging with these guys for a long time, which is what you really want. I mean, you look at NFL Sunday on Fox, similar arrangement.
If you were going to rank them, their importance, if you did McAfee, if you did Stephen A., and you did Barkley, what would be your order?
I'd still go Stephen A. 1 at this point, because I think, look, the thing I like about Stephen A. is he works hard. And he's willing to do anything for the company. McAfee, I think, has been very about McAfee so far in his career. Not that he's not a plus. He's been excellent on College Game Day, really raised his game this year, and Saban helps him because you have that expertise. And then you have his enthusiasm and what he brings with the kicking show. He's there. And then, Barkley is new, so it's hard to say. I think long term, Stephen A. has talked about his contract a lot. He's going to make, something in the range probably of 20 to 25 million per year. And I think when you look at it, and I think we've talked about this before, Dan, shows like you have, shows that where it's your name on it, where you're building the audience and you're not around the games, that's where the value is. People might not like it, in terms of people in my business but people who are kind of building the audience from the ground up because there's nothing else around it. Those are probably the most valuable people. And so they're all really valuable, but I'd probably go Stephen A. And then, it might be McAfee, but Barkley and McAfee probably tied, I'd say at this point.
Always great to talk to you. Is there a big sports media story on the horizon that we should be aware of?
I mean, there always is. That's why everyone loves to cover it, Dan. Look, I think Brady's situation is going to be one to watch. He's going to do the Super Bowl this year. Does he continue on? I'm not saying he is or isn't. He does seem enthusiastic on the air, and I've been told, from many people that he's working hard. But does have the Raider ownership stuff going. Does he do a
I don't
one and
need the
done thing?
hologram. I don't need the hologram. I don't need Tom Brady hologram. That was creepy, and it was CGI. Like I don't need that.
Yeah, I think it's too much. I agree. I think it's like technology for technology's sake. Um, and yeah, it's kind of weird. I get why they do it. I get it. It's just I don't know. Do we want that? I think we want natural. I think that's what we get back to inside the NBA. It's natural, right? That's what you want. You want that natural connection with the audience.
Like, are they going to have Whitney Houston in a hologram sing the national anthem at the Super Bowl? I mean, how far do we want to go with this?
Well, the AI is coming. I do think that, that's something we have to see. I had Jim Nantz on my podcast, and I mentioned, because, he said he wants to do the Masters till 75. And I said, well, there's AI. And he got a little glimmer in his eye. So I don't know. Jim might be doing the Masters for eternity and AI.
Great to talk to you as always, Andrew. Thank you.
Thanks, Dan.
Andrew Marchand, the Athletic Senior Sports Media columnist. You can learn more about Marchand Sports Media, andrewmarchand.com.